And we're very happy to have her here. And she's speaking on gift giving, mothering, and ancient ways.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and welcome all the new friends. It's very, very nice to be able to talk to you this evening. It is my sheer luck to be involved in this community of gift giving and otherworld, Matriarchal Studies group. And I'm relatively a newcomer to this group, so I am very busy learning new stuff. And maybe I am not giving you anything new or anything more profound discovery in this community of learners, but probably I speak from where I stand, and that may add something to the community. So I will start from where I am situated and how I link with my previous studies to this new endeavor in gift giving and matriarchal studies. So, as a way of introduction, I would see as a sort of contrast to matriarchal studies that I want to tell you that Korean society, where I was born to in the middle of the Korean War, 58 years ago, is actually described by somebody as one of the most ideal types of patriarchal society. But that was only a very recent construction of probably 500 years. We had, among the sort of acclaimed 5,000 years of history of Korea, and we had 3 queens previous to the 10th century. So actually, when the ideal type was perfected in the last century, or 19th century, that was not the truth all over in the tradition of Korean peninsula, but a very recent construction. So as a women's studies practitioner, as a feminist, I thought my job concentrated on the dismantling, deconstructing patriarchy, and critically analyzing patriarchy was a feminist job. But then after about 20-some years, there has been a rising expectation that we should provide some kind of alternative visions. So that's the point where I met Matriarchal Studies and Gift Giving Society. I just to go over how I simplify a model of patriarchy. It's, I guess, everybody's common knowledge that, but it has been very strictly practiced in the kind of a middle class of Korea in the past 500, 600 years. That patrilineage is recorded strictly in the family tree called Chokbo, and it is continued through son's succession. And women move to husband's house and patriarchality. And there is a very interesting contradiction that the first woman to appear in our new money in note is someone who is renowned for her as a mother of a very famous Confucian scholar, but she is herself a painter, artist. But she, if you read all her story and her son's story, she wasn't a patriarchal person. She spent most of her time in her own natal home and commuting between the two places. So although she was picked up by this Korean society as the ideal mother type, she in fact was a very independent woman, and also probably suggestive of the time when patriarchality was not an established rule of the time, 14th, 15th century. With no doubt, not anybody really, most people just go undoubting of children taking the father's and the husband's name, but that also is changing now. That is patriarchy as a family system, but patriarchy as a social system involves with historical progress in domination and subjugation of groups by force, and the invention of slavery, and development of kingdoms, empires, and colonizing habits develop, and through that rules and skills of domineering forces have been trained. And schools produce ideologies of male supremacist and racism, and the ownership is developed, concept is developed, and the military institutions, arms race, all sort of extend the strength, ordering to force, and then violence. Next. We all share the knowledge that the patriarchy is built on sex segregation, gender division of labor, and prohibition of women from learning. And chastity is very important because the male line has to be protected, and gender hierarchy of values that men are respectable where women are less so or inferior. And in this setting, the best ideal type of a woman is a mother of successful sons. And the Confucian society respects the filial piety, that respect towards parents, and in that regard that men and women, or fathers and mothers, are not discriminated against. So the later life is the only time that women in patriarchal society are treated equally. In this society, the relationships among women are always juxtaposed, dichotomized, and because having sons is very important, taking concubines is rationalized. So wife versus concubines, and because chastity is important, sexual behavior is the most important criterion in judging women. And then at the later stage, mothers are controllers of their sons' wives. So the relationships among women are hierarchical, competitive, and jealous, and conspiratory, and that is how misogyny is being reproduced amongst women, not only men.